So I was asked to set the tone today and begin with the question of why are you here today? So I wanted to share with you a little bit why I am here, why I work for this company that after 21 years in the public school setting, this is the first time that I'm able to truly work in a very aggressive but nice way on the equity agenda. Okay? Because unfortunately, many times traditional systems do not bend towards the most disenfranchised kids. And we need to make this happen, and we need to take it personally. So just to set the tone today, why now? Why do we have to change the narrative? Because without changing the narrative, we will not be able to change outcomes. And please note that I'm using the word outcomes, not achievement. Achievement is part of outcomes, but we're talking about life changing, okay? So we need to start by changing the language we use, because this is just more than what happens in school. This goes beyond the four walls. So we know that immigration in the US has often been the topic of debate, and if we look at what has happened in the past 50 to 60 years, we see why. Okay, this is 1960, and I'll make these maps available to you, but as we start looking at 1970, 1980, 1990, 2000, and this stops at 2000, but the growth has not stopped. We have an increase of about 2.5% a year in this country, and the percentage of immigrants and the kids that are born here, which includes me and my kids that were born here, it's about 26%. Yet, a recent study has shown that when you ask Anglo-Saxons about their social networks, 75% of Anglo-Saxons have social networks that include only white Anglo-Saxons. So we have to start asking ourselves, what is the impact of that when we are looking more and more like this? So it's not surprising that the change in demographic has also impacted the change in who comes to our schools. And the fastest growing population in the K-12 system is the EL population. Today, 6 million students in the K-12 system. So when we start looking at why are people asking these kinds of questions, or this kind of question, or this kind of question, or this kind of question, it does show that people are concerned and that they mean well, but there is a trend in these questions that we notice that is very disturbing. And it's a trend of doubt. Doubt about ourselves and doubt about the kids. And when we think about what this can translate, this doubt strand, if you want to call it, translates into in the K-12 system over time, what we end up with is denial of access. And at the end of the 12th grade, we don't have full option graduates. And I'm not talking about college career. They should have the option, but it's full option graduates. So the way we deny kids begin with policies and practice that across the span really impacts the outcomes for children. So we see the types of practices. And the next one really drives me insane because in Florida, in California, this is still the case. English-only policies. How is this working for us? But it doesn't stop there. So as warriors of social justice, we need to start really facing the system and not throw people under the bus, but throw the system under the bus and begin to make the changes that will impact kids. And with all of this and the denial of access that we have today, The biggest challenge and opportunity that we have is that kids get messages. And kids are cultural sponges. And they are seeing what is going on around them. And the implicit and explicit biases are learned along with the social norms. Developmental psychologists have shown that at the kindergarten level, kids are already developing the social biases, the implicit biases that are reflective of their cultural norms. Even more scary than that is the fact that the messages that put whole groups in a box or portray them in a negative way really stick with kids. So the messages that we have been hearing lately that place entire groups as this or that are the messages that we are going to have to deconstruct as educators. And the most important thing that we can do is to really help our kids to deconstruct these messages. So what we need is an education that is really kind, that is really brave, that is joyful, that is community-based, that is transformative. We need to start thinking, what is the type of structure and learning experiences that our kids need so our democracy does not die? So we have to talk about what are the things we can do as educators. And we need to start incorporating the language for social justice in our day-to-day. What is going to drive us today? Because every day our actions and our decisions are either changing the world or entrenching inequality. It's one or the two. So the first thing that I'll tell you that you can do is to believe in the possibility of all kids. Because it is the systemic inadequacies that cause the outcomes that we have, not genetic assets. So this is a great book if you haven't read it yet. But it cannot stop with books. We have to understand the culture, the strengths that kids that are coming to us are bringing with them. And we have to have materials where they see themselves in the potential of what they can be in our classrooms. So we have to start changing our questions. We have to reframe and start asking better questions. And see why we don't view kids that come with more as having more gifts. Why are we doing that? Recently, I worked, like Jane is saying, I worked with a district, with the leadership of the district. And at the end of the first day, when I was asking them to reflect on the day, one of them said, a very high up person said, "We are racists. And this is why." And I thought to myself, wow. But one of the things they said is, if kids come in speaking French, we think it's great. If kids come in speaking Italian, we think it's great. If kids come in speaking Spanish, we look down on them. So it's going to require that we look at our beliefs and who we are and how that translates into a lens of what we do. We also need to be in the room. And we need to stop the type of talk that labels and places kids in boxes. We need to confront that. Because if we don't, it becomes a self-fulfilling prophecy. So how can we do that in a nice way? Because we cannot turn off people. But how can we educate people and challenge people? Because if we just accept it, it becomes a self-fulfilling prophecy. And today, the way our democracy is in danger is not only because of what our disenfranchised population is not having access to, but it's also the mainstream. Because if we do not work with the mainstream, we're not going to have the democracy that we want for our kids. So we have to ask better questions, and it begins with us. And we have to start reflecting on, do we have certain values and issues that we need to confront in ourselves? And then we have to look at our educational processes, procedures, practices to find out what is working where and how do we spread that. So in changing this, we begin to look at policies and practices. Policies that are English-only policies. Policies that discriminate against our kids because of behavior or differences in culture. We must address policies. We also must address how we allocate resources. It's not like, here are the resources, let's fit in the needs. We start with needs, and then we allocate resources. If we really want to change this, we're going to have to tackle this because governance matters. 2 more. Shifting to an assets-based perspective. They come in with more. It's different. We need to value it. We need to use it. And if we do, we are giving them full options. We're giving them a voice. To do that, we're going to have to change our pedagogical orientation along with our values and our systems of belief. And you're going to hear Dr. Wilhelm talk about a different way of bringing kids into the partnership, into the fold. So they are not mere recipients, and teachers are not mere just, you're here, and I'm going to fill you with the information, and you are passive, and I'm the only one that is talking. We have to set up the processes and systems that will support personal voice and create agency for social change. This is about outcomes, not just achievement. So it's going to have to begin with us. Whether you are a classroom leader, a school leader, a district leader, a department leader, it has to start with us. An introspection of how are we playing a role into this picture, and how can we change? So today we're here. We're all together. And our hope is that you leave here inspired, engaged, empowered to begin changing the world. Our hope is by the end of the day, all of us have this, we want to be better. We want to do better. All of us want to have a sense of urgency to get it done. So I need your help now. Because if not us, let's do it again. If not us, then who? If not now, when? So, our map is looking different. And if we want to keep this alive, let's make it happen. All right? Thank you for being here. And we hope that you leave here with a different